So today we are going to talk about exception and exception handling in Java. Okay. So what we are going to do, we will talk about what is exception, what are the types of exception, and how to handle those. Okay. So let's understand first, whenever you write a program, you must have made a lot of mistakes, right? Whenever very first time in your academics or when while you were learning on your own, let's say, you must have made some mistakes related to semicolon is missed, sometimes curly bracket missed, right? Sometimes some other type of error. We generally say it error, right? That there is some error in the program, correct? But then you get to know, okay, how to resolve those things, right? But let's understand technically error is a different thing. Okay, an exception is a different thing. Okay, so the error related to when we say semicolon, curly bracket, right? Those are syntax error. Those are, so let's say you miss semicolon missed, or you forgot to write something like this, curly bracket at a particular place, you missed it. Okay, or spelling mistake, spelling mistakes, spelling mistakes related to, you're writing if else. Let's say switch, you want to write switch, but actually you write it like this, swich, it should be switch. The spelling mistake, this is some kind of spelling mistake. This kind of errors are syntax error. Okay, syntax error, syntax error. It is nothing related to error or exception. In technical words, in um, technically, it's not error, it's not exception. It's simply syntax error. It's simply the structural error what you are making. It's simply you're not following the rules of creating the statement, the rules of putting the expression. You're making some mistakes there that a programmer has to understand and they themselves has to resolve it. Okay, so how to resolve syntax error? It will come, right? It can come to anybody, but the thing is, based on your experience, how many programs you are making, um, based on what you are reading, based on how you understand how to write programs, right? Some people, they put curly bracket here and there. Anywhere they just start writing curly bracket, start some statement and then curly bracket end. It's not like that. You cannot do this, simply anywhere. It's there is particular code block where you can put, right? Maybe when you are using if, when you're using a function, when you are starting a class, right? At those places you can use curly bracket. It's not like that you can use it anywhere. Okay. So to resolve those things, it's you have to resolve on your own, right? You have to understand rules of writing statement, writing code statement. Okay. Or it's related to statement or expression. Fine. This expression can be arithmetic expression, anything, logical expressions and all. So we are not going to talk about this thing. We are not going to talk about this syntax error today. But now we will take a simple example. Let me open my Eclipse. Just a minute. Let's create a new program. So we will say new class um, exception demo one fine. So let's understand that you can write the programs related to, let's say, dividing two numbers. So how you will do it? Integer uh num1. Let's say num1, comma, num2, comma, num3. You declared three things. Then you said num1 is equals to 20. Then you say num2 is equals to 4. Fine. And num3 is equals to num1 divided by num2. Perfect. And then you want to print it. System.out.println num3. Perfect. And after that, you want to do something with num1. So for example, you want to have another variable num4 is equals to num2 multiplied by 10, and then you want to print number 4. I believe everyone understands what I am writing here, right? It's a very simple program. In Java, we are declaring three integers. We are then assigning the values. We are saying num1 is 20, num2 is 4, and num3 is num1 divided by num2. And then we want to print num3, and num4 is num2 multiplied by 10. And then we want to print num4. Simple. I will run this. I will run this. And it is showing me, you know, your num3 is 5 and num4 is 40. So let's print it properly. So we will say in bracket is equal to plus. And here also we will say num4 is equals to num4. So let's run it again. It's printing me perfect. Great. Now, let's assume by mistake, if we will do this num2 as 0, num2 as 0, we'll put num2 value as 0. Now, at 12th line, num3 is num1 divided by num2, which will be 20 divided by 0, and anything divided by 0 is actually infinity. Mathematically, it's infinity. But in programming, generally, 20 divided by 0 is undefined, right? Or it is not able to calculate it. It is not able to calculate it. Okay. So it will throw an exception. So see here, if I'll run this program this time, it is showing me that there is some problem, and it will tell you at what line number also. So whenever you see this kind of error, don't worry. Whenever you see this kind of exception, don't worry. This can be handled. This can be handled easily. Okay. So it's showing me, it's saying java.lang.arithmetic exception divided by 0. And this is at particular line number, exception demo1 java.12. If you click here, it will highlight the line number where you are getting that kind of exception. Fine. Another problem with this exception is your program is halt, means stop, not like halt. It's like your program is stopped here. It is not executing the further line of code. It is not executing this, correct? Whereas this num4 is nothing related to num3 or any num1, anything, right? It is just doing its own thing, num2 multiplied by 10. Why we are stopping this to execute? So there is a problem. So there is two problems. One is you are getting the exception. Second is because of this exception, I'm not going to execute my further lines of code. Correct. So even if so, how do we have to handle it? Even if there is exception, let's say I want to execute my other lines of code, I should be allowed to do that. Correct. We will resolve it. So this is exception. So then there are types of exception that we have to understand. For that, I'm going to that picture. So what it says that in Java, there is a throwable class presence, right? It's a root class, right? It's under java.lang package. There is a throwable class. And then there are two type of what we say um, things are there. There are two classes. One is exception, one is error. Now, technically, there are difference between exception and error. Error is a situation which you cannot predict, right? Generally, error is a situation which it will come automatically, right? And you cannot prepare yourself to handle those exceptions based on your experience. Probably you will be able to do it, right? But exception is a condition which you can guess if it can come, then I will handle it. It's like this. So what are those exceptions? IO exceptions, SQL exception, class not found exception. There are runtime exceptions. So what it is saying that there are checked exception and there are unchecked exception. There are checked exception and there are unchecked exception. Let me write it, what I'm saying. So exception, when you go, there is actually checked and unchecked. Okay. So there are two types, checked exception and unchecked exception. What are checked exceptions? Checked exceptions are generally compile time exceptions. Compile time means if that kind of exception is present in your program, compiler which itself will tell you, okay, there is some issue in your program. Okay, handle it. Unchecked exceptions are generally it's runtime exception. Runtime exception. I'm not talking about the runtime error. Okay. So I'm talking about this runtime exception here. Okay. But IO exception and SQL exception, right? Those are, uh, checked exception. Why it is a checked exception? Because compiler, right? They want to, be prepared that there should not be any input output related to exceptions. Okay. So when you are taking input from a file or from the console, the input should not, it should happen, right? It should be complete input should happen. It's like this, right? It, the your system itself will tell you that handle it first, right? Then only we will allow you to execute your program. SQL exception. So there may be SQL exception if you are creating a connection to your database, right? That database should exist, and other things related to your user ID password. You're making a connection object, right? That's fine. Syntax wise, that's fine. but then there can be exception. So handle it first. It's like this. Why you want to run that and then you want to find those errors? No, 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 no. You handle it beforehand. This arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, index out of boundary exception, that will come runtime. So as of now, if you see our example, we got one runtime exception, correct? Let's run it again. Why it is runtime? See, when I'm running it, then only I'm getting this arithmetic exception, correct? It is not telling me at the while writing the program. So what are checked exception? What we are talking about IO and all that we can see one example. You can go through this thing later on. I have already shared the um, link to this. I'm not going to that. I just want to show you a checked exception kind of thing. Wait, are they giving example? I'm just checking. No, they are mainly talking about all runtime exceptions. I just want to, so input output operation, whenever you will do, this is also a good blog, Geeks for Geeks, exception in Java. That also you can read later on. But I just want to, so this is the same example we did for the arithmetic exception. Um, this is also arithmetic exception. Okay, okay, okay. Some theory thing you should read about how your system get to know that what it is happening, right? So this one, this is also null pointer exception. So null pointer exception also comes under runtime exception. See here. So what we are going to do here, declaring one string as null and then saying find out the length of this string. So null will not have any length, okay? And null is null. So you cannot put dot length for the null values. It's like this. So it will throw an exception. But they are all talking about runtime exceptions, right? I just want to see an example where where we have something related to checked exception example. It's better. You can simply Google. Let's Google checked exception. Checked checked exception in Java example. Great. Okay. Yes, maybe this is scalar.com. They may have something better. I'm not writing it because it's better to get some example, right? And then follow that thing. So they are saying this is example. That's perfectly fine. This one I was talking about this. So let me copy this. Let me copy this line, and I'll put this line in my code here. I'm putting this line code. Now, if you observe, this is showing me not, this is not exception. It's saying that first import this file input output stream. Okay. What this line will do, let's understand first. This is like creating input stream from a file, passing the file so that I can read this file. I'll perform some reading or writing of operations, let's say, into that file. That's fine. But while writing it, it's saying that unhandled exceptions, file not found exceptions. So this will come when you're writing the program itself, right? So, or at the compile time. Okay. So these are checked exceptions. You cannot execute this program. If I'll try to run this program, it will say that there is error. So let me execute this. So it's saying error exists in required project. You want to proceed with the launch even if there is any error. So that is fine. It will allow you to execute it. But that doesn't mean that it has not warned you. It has already warned you that there is some error. It's showing me in red color. See here, red underlined thing. So you should not have this kind of thing in your program. Okay, so you have to handle it. Now let me. So this is one example of checked exception. Now let's understand how we handle it. I'll execute this program again, and I was saying that there is exception at line number 12, and because of that we are not able to do anything, right? Line number 14. Line number 14 has error, and because of that we are not able to do anything. Great. What you can do is, wherever you think that some kind of exception can come, let's understand there are two type of flow in your program: normal flow and critical flow. Normal flow and critical flow. You know that in the normal flow things will work good. In critical flow, you have to understand that there can be exception can come, right? So here what you can do is, the way is you can put try. Try. It's like try this code. Try this code. And if there is any error, if there is any exception, not the error, if there is any exception, then catch it. So you have to write catch. Okay. Catch. What do you have to catch? You have to catch exception. Exception. One reference you have to give. So let's say EX I'm writing. You can write anything. And in the catch block, you can perform what you want to do based on this error. So let me tell you, try block is this, where we are saying, hey, we want to try this code. We want to execute this code. If there is any exception, handle it, right? So here I'm just writing EX, nothing else as of now. You can do other things also. So how it is, try the code block. If there is an exception, catch it. It's like this. Now, this time, if I'll execute this program, it is showing me that there is some arithmetic exception is there. But if you see here, I'm able to execute further line of code also. Line number 23 is getting executed. Line number 23 is num2 multiplied by 10, which is 0 multiplied by 10. Sorry, num4 is num2 multiplied by 10. So num4 will become 0, and it's working. So it is allowing me to execute further, right? One thing. Second thing is, I got to know that exactly where is the problem. So if you have thousands line of code, right, and you will try there are 4 to 5 exception in different lines of code. So it will be difficult for you to check one by one where is the problem and resolve it. Here I exactly know that basically the problem is here, right? So here I can write my own messages also. I can use the logs, or I can write my own, what we say, message that some problem while while dividing, right? While num1 divided by num2. Something like that you can write, because you know that what is happening uh, during line number 14 to line number 16. Okay. So this EX is basically by default, it gives the message, what kind of exception it is. So if I'll run it again, see here, it's saying some problem while num1 by num2. Okay. Rest of the things are technical errors, right? That you have to understand. It's related to arithmetic exception and all. But you are able to do your own customized message also when you are getting those kind of exception. right? Fine, but this is very specific exception. This is arithmetic exception. So if you understand that it is arithmetic, it's fine. You can put exactly arithmetic exception. Okay, you should do it like arithmetic exception. Catch the arithmetic exception. It's like this. If you don't know what kind of exception can come, then put exception, because exception is parent to all the other exceptions, right? So what I'm saying is, if you see the hierarchy, where is that? If you see hierarchy, somewhere we had, right? Here, see here. The exception, here is exception, right? All checked and unchecked exception, like for them, exception is the parent. So if you have, you don't know if it is arithmetic or what kind of exception it is, just write exception. Okay, it's like that. Fine. So this is about checked exception and try catch block. We are going to do more practice about try catch. Okay.